Hey, how are you? I've got headphones on. Can't see them because they're in ears, but it was screaming. It's always good to spend time with you, and I'm so happy that you've decided to join me. So thank you again for joining me on Chatting It Up. Today's subject is about awkward moments in public settings. Unfortunately, I had the experience, the privilege of my mother always making me embarrassed in public and doing some like shocking things that I had to just suck it up. But I also had to be proactive because if we went into a public setting, if there was a group of us that went out to dinner or something like that, I had to almost have a strategy um, on what to do to have the upper hand of the situation without my dementia mom going not berserk, but she just kind of like she had no filter. I guess that's the polite way of putting it. Is that she absolutely had no filter. And the crazy thing about my mom, she's notorious for being the one that wants to do the shock factor. And that's just another thing on top of everything else. So what I've come up with is I noticed that when we went to a restaurant or something like that, I thought, how am I going to be able to let people know that my mom has dementia and not to take anything that she says seriously, kind of buffer it because I've seen way too many times that my mom would say something shocking, unfiltered, and everybody would be like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. Oh my gosh, how do I talk to this lady? Thinking that she's totally normal and just saying whatever she wants to say. At least if I were to at least notify them ahead of time, then at least they would have a better understanding. Oh, this woman has dementia. There's something not right, but this is the person that's the point of contact. This is the person I need to focus in on. And not to be rude or ignore mom, but just kind of like they have a better way of dealing it because nobody wants to be caught off guard. That's the worst. But what we did is we ended up, there was these ideas in my support group where we talked about that because much to my surprise, I thought it was just my mom because my mom has always been a person that was always funny, always had a great sense of humor. However, she would say unfiltered things, and I'm like going, "Oh my gosh!" Well, you add dementia to it, and it just exasperates everything. Everything gets heightened and bigger. Not what you want when it's your mother. But what I ended up doing is like if we were waiting to be seated, if we called ahead, I wouldn't say anything at the time of making a reservation or calling ahead. When I actually got there, I would make sure that I would find out who is seating us and who will be our server. This way, that if my mom would start up with anything, and it would always be one thing in particular, and I'll be sharing that with you in a second. But if she started doing something, at least I would have had an understanding and some sort of relationship with that server or the management to at least let them know, hey, my mom has dementia. She's sometimes aware of what she says, and sometimes she's not aware. She doesn't mean any harm. However, it can make things awkward. So when we do order food, I want you to know that she can order whatever she wants. Um, and I will basically be deflecting anything that may not be to her better interest. And I'd always want to do a final head nod or a check, just check in with me. So my mom would, I'd help her out with the menu. Um, and the server at this point would know because I've already spoken to them. That's the other thing. If you can't seem to nail down a time to speak to the server or the management to let them know the situation, um, you can have little cards, like little business cards made that says, you know, excuse me, my mom has dementia. It's a medical situation. I just don't want you to be caught off guard, but I am the person that will be making the decisions. So, just giving a little, maybe one sentence so that they know who I am and that be that. Um, which was a really good idea because it's helped out quite a bit. But my mom, I'd help her out with an item on the menu. And for sure, would always be, can I get you anything to drink? And lady would go around the table, order the drink. She said, I would like a margarita. And they said, a margarita? Yes, I would like a margarita. And I'll either give a head nod because it's already understood, make it a virgin, you know, and that's okay. I didn't want an inebriated dementia patient. So, things like that. But it would never fail when she went around to take the entree order. What would you like to order? And for classic, every single time, I have no idea why my mom is so fixated on this. And I'm so glad that I was able to talk to the staff beforehand because it sure is embarrassing when it flies out of your mom's mouth and says, I would like a male stripper. Just thinking about it makes me sweat. Not because of it's a male stripper, it just makes me nervous. Nervous sweat. But yeah, she'd say it all the time. And some servers would be really like, they would play along with her. Oh, you want a male stripper? You have a type that you like, and so my mom would just like the engagement of that, naughty talk or whatever the case may be. And some of them would be like, oh my gosh, I feel totally uncomfortable. I don't know what to say, and we get past that hurdle and then everything's okay. But then it got to the point where mom was like, I want to have a to-go box, and then she'd try to snap her fingers, say, I need a to-go box. And she'd make a scene because nobody's really paying attention to her. So I'm like, don't worry about it, mom. I'll get to it. Don't worry about it, But I think that is probably one of the biggest things. And I noticed in my support groups when I do talk to people that they're having issues like that too. What they say, unwarranted behavior, awkward moments in public, awkward moments within family, but for me, it was mostly in restaurants or public scenarios where there would be a stranger and my mom engaging in conversation. I'd always be nervous when there was children because, they don't know what a male stripper is, but that was guaranteed to come up, or the fact that, hey, you know what? I'm placing an order. These people work for me. They're my servers. I go, Mom, they're not your slaves. I said, for crying out loud, give them a break. But mom had this weird attitude about her, like everybody served her. And mom really wasn't like that in her everyday. It's just weird when we got into a setting of in a restaurant where someone was serving you and doing their job. Mom kind of had this weird air, and that's why it was like really vital for me to it was just vital for me to have the upper hand on this, because actually if it got out of control and it caused a scene, I didn't want to go out with her anymore, and obviously this was when she was still capable of being in a wheelchair. And of course, those days got fewer and far between towards the end, but I tried to take her out as much as I could. I know my sister took her out when she was around, and mom's a trip. I don't know. I know that other people have that, but I just wanted to put this little ditty out here to let you know it happens. But just think ahead. As a caregiver, think ahead. Have a plan of action. Have some form of strategy. You know your loved one well enough to know that what may happen, what may occur, what may not occur. But, then let that be a blessing if nothing happens. But expect the unexpected. And it is completely normal. Just have a game plan. That's all it is. And with that, I want to say, continue to be blessed, find the humor in all things, and remember to always, always be good to yourself. I'll see you in the next video. Have a great one. Hey, thanks for watching. And please remember to hit the subscribe button. We are trying to grow our channel and reach 1,000 subscribers. Now, for every new subscriber, these two nutheads right here, they're going to get a treat, so we will all be happy. Thanks for watching.